Today is June 15th, 2025. It's Father's Day. Yeah, it's Father's Day. All right. It's a very often overlooked, I guess, holiday. You know, fathers in general are overlooked in, our society. Okay. Our contributions are discounted these days and whatnot. No one cares. And when they do, when you do hear, anyone talking about Father's Day who is of the other gender or anything in between, it comes off as conciliatory and shit, and facetious. If I, might be so bold. You know, I'm a dad. I have fathered two children and shit. I'm probably supposed to have four children actually, but abortions are what they are, right? Her body, her choice and shit. And I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I feel a certain way every Father's Day and shit. The way I feel about Father's Day is the way I started feeling about Christmas. After I graduated from high school in my first year semester of college, I started hating the winter holiday because it was the time of year that my family members were the most toxic. And, I was literally forced to endure the toxic behavior and the addictions and everything. Here I have you know, you see a bottle and a glass with some liquor in it, some dark liquor in it. And I don't drink. I don't really drink. I do, I have drink, most time I do a Heineken, or some wine or something, but I'm not an avid drinker. It's not a part of my routine. I don't need it to get through the day, when my day is shit, you know. But like I said, like I feel about Father's Day, the way I used to feel like the holiday season started with Thanksgiving and shit. It started being real shitty right after I graduated from high school. I didn't know, uh, I really wasn't a student as far as codependency and, uh, you know, how to disconnect from people that don't have your best interest in heart. A lot of people want to waste your time. They want to use you as an emotional tampon. And, yeah, I feel bad for the kings out there that don't realize that until it's too late. I was one of those people. All right, it's one of those people, and I never, all these years, I never really thought about Father's Day. Okay, until I got married. I was in a long term relationship, and I finally got married, and my wife would uh, tell me Happy Father's Day, and she would do things for me on Father's Day. All right, she'd do things for me. We're not together now, and it's okay. I appreciate the marriage for what it was, and I thank her for recognizing Father's Day and for never keeping me away from our only child that we have. Okay, I have two, right? But I raised one. All right. Now I'm not gonna. I would like to talk about the other one. And originally, I was gonna come here and I was gonna explain to my eldest child why he felt the way he did. In exquisite detail. But then, I thought better of it because, probably, what I would say would be used in future litigation and whatnot. So that being said, I can't speak how I want and whatnot. And I can't talk to, my eldest son face to face and whatnot. I can't talk to him. I don't particularly want to talk to him at this point and whatnot because, you know, he is the epitome of the reason I make these commentaries. He's the epitome. I don't want any of you young men out there, anyone of any age to be left behind. All right. I don't want any of you to not have some sort of resource or some point of reference that may or may not help you when you're in a dark place. Back in the day, uh, I was going through something, and I called my dad on the phone, and I dialed him up, and he said some less than encouraging words and chuckled. You know, and I thought about that shit. I didn't. My father's very successful. He was wealthy. Uh, I was uh, I was given a brick version of a life. I don't want to go into it because that'll be a part of litigation too, or not eventually, or some other issue, legally speaking and shit. But yeah, he chuckled and shit. He chuckled, and I ended up calling one of my cousins who was 4 years younger than me and getting what I wanted, getting what I needed from him instead of my dad. And it was ironic because my father would call me at random points in my life, my adult life, and complain about his other children. At least yeah, we complain about the eldest child for the most part. You know, he would say, I remember one time he called me up. You know, he called me at least 2 times. There were two particular times I remember. Besides, uh, you know, what things initially became to be. He called me up one time. He told me, I don't know, he must have been thinking something. The man upstairs must have told me. He told me not to do anything sleazy, and I felt like somebody was watching me and shit. And in hindsight, somebody might have been watching me. He might have hired a PI to check on me or something. But he called me up and told me not to do anything sleazy and shit. And I thought it was funny because recently one of my friends was going through some economic issues. He was a business owner, and he bought a digital camera and went into the adult industry and shit. And I was just a periphery guy there. But I remember that right that day before he told me that, I had gone to an adult film agency with one of my friends and shit, and it was hilarious because when I went in there, they were like, yeah, real quiet. I'm just, this is a stream of consciousness, but I went there, and it was later explained to me that they thought I was there to take them out because every day someone tried to kill them for making movies with their wives or daughters. And you know how it is and shit. I ain't trying to dredge up any red pill shit, but it was hilarious with my father. Later that the next day, I was going home from work on a bus, and my dad called me and said, "Oh, don't do nothing sleazy and shit." And he would call me at random and talk about his grandchildren, you know. And his grandchildren will never know that, but I actually know what he thought of them and shit. Because thematically speaking, in real life, I'm that character, I'm that kid from that movie Soul Food, that little kid that was narrating the movie. That was my role in life. That was put thrust upon me. I didn't ask for it. Me personally, I just wanted my own family. Growing up in a toxic nuclear family and later even more toxic matriarchy that ate itself alive and everyone around it, including myself. I wanted to have my own family. Like really, I had this whole white picket fence thing and shit. I was delusional. I was as delusional as the black women, the black female misandrist I talked about and shit. I thought I was gonna make it happen and shit. But I picked the wrong person and shit. I was unable to see red flags. I loved this person and shit, but it wasn't to be. And my dad knew that was a bad faith deal in the making and shit. And he didn't say anything. Right? Didn't say anything. I did never do that to my children, and I've always kept it down. 100% with my sons. Right? Even the older one when I had very minute access to them and shit. So today is Father's Day, and I was going through some of the folders on my laptop, and I saw this thumbnail I made for a DBG Haley Berry Bailey video I'd done in the past. It simply was titled "When Does He Get to Be a Man?" It's something of that nature. And I thought about it. And I thought about how crucial fathers are to their families, to the formation of the families and the stability of it. It's built on our backs. The women in our community, they want us to assume all these duties, and they want to have a free hand to do whatever they want. And they don't understand it doesn't work like that. It's against universal law. It's against the natural order and shit. If you want to be in any kind of organic relationship with someone, then two halves must become one whole. Right? They don't get this. You cannot explain this to them and shit. They are too far gone and shit. So I would posit out of necessity that, you make families, stable, strong families where you can, you go where you can. You explore your options and shit. The problem is the social engineering and our status in this supposed country, you can't say, it leaves these same women with that, their identity politics and their ideology and their childish nature. It leaves them as taskmasters and overseers and slave catchers and shit, where they would pursue us across the the planet and shit simply to stop us or to mess up any opportunity that we would have to rebuild our community, wherever that would be. I mean, we've been in this country for hundreds of years, longer actually. Okay, we're not going to get a true accounting of our actual history, right? And the social engineering and the constant badgering, and spiritual and otherwise, and shit across the board leaves us insolvent and whatnot. The only way to make any kind of substantive change is to do a hard reset, which is why I would call my classify myself as a misogynist anarchist and shit. But really, I'm I'm in my dad energy, my quote unquote divine male energy, because I truly want, all you guys out there, whose faces I'll never see, who I'll never know. I want you to know that there's someone out there that cares about you, that wants you to live your best life for no other reason, just you deserve it. It's your life. Okay, you're not put here to live your life for someone else and shit. It's the same thing I would tell my estranged older son and shit. He lost cause that he is. Okay, it's a shame, and I feel like I dislike Father's Day because it makes me think about parental alienation. Because parental alienation colored 60% of my life, right? 60%, right? These women always talk about how we're not present in the house and everything, but they discount their own behavior and shit that would, you know, make any sane man run for the hills simply to preserve his mental stability and shit. You know, they feel like they own us and whatnot. The whole deal is like you don't own us and whatnot. We're not put here. I checked my whole body and I didn't find any bitch's name on there that I had been, that I had slept with or been in any kind of relationship with any period of time. I never found their name on shit. Hilariously enough, some chick I dated wanted me to get tattooed her name on me and shit. And I told her fuck no. She would have write herself on me. And after that, I was like, I'm never dating that kind of a chick again. It was a Caribbean female. It was hilarious. Today's Father's Day. And I come in here with a stream of consciousness. I present to you the graphic of a glass of liquor and a bottle. And we can spiritually have that together and enjoy ourselves. Because we have to be here for each other. Right? The women, they say they're there for each other, but they co-sign every negative thing they do. They don't have any checks and balances in their own community across the gender line over there in the women's camp. They don't check each other. They don't have any standard of behavioral practice and shit. There's no shame, and they want to enforce that on you. The hardest part of being a man is being 100% true to yourself and honest with the people that are around you. It's the only thing that will save our community. And a lot of men don't have the strength to do this, and they become flawed and fractured and whatnot. All right? They become flawed and fractured. It's sad. It's the only thing that can help our community and shit, to be honest with the people we're building these families with, these people we're sleeping with, everything else. I don't make no bones about shit. After my first relationship, and I drifted about and shit. I did a shit ton of therapy. I did years and years of therapy, and I did it for myself. Dude, I didn't do it for no one else. And I still felt the way. I'm still, rebuilding myself and shit. That parental alienation that, DDG goes through, has gone through, will go through. The adversity that he'll experience at the hands of another human being who feels like they should own them because, they had a kid together and shit. It's sad. It's tragic. Alright? It's tragic. There's no checks and balances. Why would someone want to engage in a legally binding agreement called marriage when there's everything to lose, nothing to gain and shit? They're not gonna make any bones about not giving you shit. The women in our community act like this two-tiered political party, the red and blue party, who promise nothing shit, refer to us as some offhanded handle and shit, not even our true authentic selves. We can't have any accord with them and shit. All they have is their handout. They want to play all day. They don't want to do any work. They don't want to do the labor while talking like pseudo psychiatrists, pseudo sociologists and shit. It makes no sense. You're asking me for tangibles and shit and tying it to uh, the natural order and shit. Make it make sense. All right? It's Father's Day. And I sit here, in front of my laptop, my broken laptop, and you know, I, uh, I want to share myself with you gentlemen out there because who else do we have if we don't have each other, right? It's Father's Day. I always hated Father's Day. Now I want to tell you about my dad. You know, a lot of times during the years that I was an adult, I would make out I would go buy a Father's Day card and write something in it and write my name, and I put it in an envelope, and I wouldn't send it. Sometimes I could try to get other people to send it, they wouldn't send it. But like deep down, I was angry that my father had left me behind after my parents divorced, and I was made to carry the cross because I looked just like him. That I was abused, and I was made to carry a cross because I looked like him. I bore all his sins, and I'm in my 50s today and shit. And there's a group of people out there that would like me to continue carrying that cross. They think that it's a legacy to my abuse would be continuous legacy and shit. I find it humorous and shit, and hilarious and tragic at the same time and shit that they would feel this way. It tells me that they don't know who I am and they never saw me as a human being or a person. All right, I am so radicalized that I feel I have to use an analogy. When I was a kid and I was in this situation and shit, I was left in front of a television. All right, and a television was my stepdad and shit. For all intents and purposes. So I had to use a film analogy. You know, I became, for lack of a better term, Caesar from the original Planet of the Apes movies, particularly the fourth one, The Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. If you see the Caesar in that, he's a chimp, a talking chimp. That's me. That's me. That's me today. I'm even that new Caesar, that CGI one. If you watch any of those Planet of the Apes movies, shit. What I mean by that is that I'm willing to take a bullet to the head, eyes wide open, looking down the barrel of a gun and shit, and capitulate or bend the knee to a flawed construct. Okay, a flawed societal construct, the matriarchy, I guess. Okay, does it make me toxically masculine? No. For years, people have been attacking, my masculinity and put me in the no-win situation, a Kobayashi Maru situation. I've been getting out of that shit left and right. I've been dancing on a razor blade for all my life and shit. And, sue me if I don't want, you kings out there, you young guys out there. I don't want you to follow in my footsteps. That's why I can't present myself as any paragon of virtue because I made all those mistakes and everything. I can't say I'm looking back as I go forward and shit. I'm kind of doing a moonwalk thing. I'm kind of doing it sideways. I'm doing a country two-step and shit into my future, whatever that's going to be. So, I decided, I want to help you, with words, if nothing else. All right? I mean, it's not perfect for me and everything, but I know who I am. And, despite what I said about my dad, I loved my father. I've always loved and tried to live up to what I thought was the family, honor, and what I thought was the family honor. And I figured out that I was the only one living up to that shit. Everybody else was doing them and shit. Maybe it works for them. I don't really care. If they live, they live. If they die, they die. I don't care. I know that my father used to call me on the phone and talk about his issues. A lot of people used to do that to me over the years, call me up and just talk about it, shit on me, emotionally, wipe their ass with me, and then dip out. But I like to hear from my father. All right, we didn't have a perfect relationship. Matter of fact, I was disowned once. I was disowned for like 2 days because I wanted to. Yeah, it was. I think it was like Father's Day. Like I wanted to take him and my eldest son to breakfast in Hyde Park in Chicago, right? And I wanted to go to this cafe that we used to go to, that I used to go to with my dad when I was a kid. and just have. I wanted us all to be together, right? And he decided he was going to ghost us and shit. You know, I didn't go there, but you know, I got a call and like I ain't going to do that. So I was mad and gave him the business, and he told me like he was pissed off and slammed on me. So like I was getting ready to fly back to Los Angeles, and I called his ass up, and I said, "Hey, if I'm still disowned, don't worry. When I get back to Los Angeles, I'll go to Stanley Moss Courthouse and cut off my last name and shit. I said I won't carry your name." And he said, "Okay, you could be in the family again." It's just like that, some bullshit. He just didn't want to go. I'm like, damn, you know, just say you didn't want to go. It's so shitty, you know, it's so beta. This is my father, a very strong and powerful man. All right, a very strong and powerful man, a Shriner. Okay, a Shriner. He owned his own company. He had a company. All right, he was a Mason. All right, if you believe that or not, I don't give a fuck. A very apparently high-ranking Mason. All right, and he never wanted me to be a part of none of that shit. All right, he had his reasons. Maybe some Diddy type shit involved in there. I don't know. He didn't want me to be a part of it. He shunned me. You know, maybe it's his way of showing love to not have me be a part of that world. All right. I've been looked at other people in the family, and you know they haven't. They're not doing good. All right. The bags of money, and you an alcoholic. It ain't making any shit. And my father, he was self. You know, I have to describe him as a very strong and powerful man whose presence, he commanded the room when he went into it and shit, sometimes negatively. But, you know, when I could look at people, I was closest to my father. I would sit next to him and I could feel the self-loathing, right? I couldn't have a decent conversation with my dad. We was talking about the playoffs one time and he got mad because I was calling stats and, talking about shit, just like this. I was in my 30s. And he got real mad and shut the whole conversation down. And I wanted to leave, and he kept me there for like an extra 20 minutes until it was safe for me to leave. And we had like an argument because he wanted to give me a baseball cap, and I didn't want to. I told him I didn't wear hats, and he was just mad. And his wife was like, "Wear the hat," And I was like, "Okay, I'll wear the hat, bitch," And it was funny, I am his heir apparent. My father passed away in 2020 during the COVID, during the pandemic. Okay, I may say that shit. Yeah, he passed away under dubious circumstances. Okay, it's very sad. I wish I could go further and shit, but I know that he loved me. I know that posthumously he wanted to make up for, giving me the short end of the stick and making me carry and wear his sins throughout my entire life. All right. And some people, maybe I'm still carrying the cross right now. I'll put it down. Okay, I'll put it down. I am not, and this is a reason point I'm making about it. I am not required to be everyone's whipping boy or punching bag and whatnot. And then I don't want this for black men and whatnot because that's the role that these women seem to have for us. All right, they want you to stay in a burning house with them and shit and watch it burn down. And right before you emulate, they're gonna say, "What we gonna do?" I don't know, bitch. Nothing to tell my kings before I burn up. Happy Father's Day.
Steps in me. Nah, JT. It's my music. It's my music.
Takes more than love to build it up, to build
Yo, let's do it like we did at the time.
Is there a heart? Is there a heart in the house tonight? Stand up, stand up. Let me know that you understand. Is there a heart? Is there a heart in the house? Is there a heart in the house? You got to have love. You got to have love in your heart tonight.
Is a house for love, and I've learned that it don't take much to break a heart. Is a house for love, and I've learned. Build it up, build it up, build it up. Is a house for love, and I've learned. I've learned.